First of all, congratulations on your Persistence in Vision Award, which has been given to you this Friday by the Provincetown Film Society, and a wonderful celebration of trans filmmakers' work. How excited is that? How exciting is that?
Yeah, it's amazing to finally be recognized for my persistence. I guess that's the way to put it. Because it's been 5 years almost that I've been pushing for better trans representation in film and TV, and we're suddenly accelerating rapidly right now. So this is a really good time for that. I've seen other companies come and go in this amount of time, trying to do vaguely similar things to what I do. Some of them are still around. Most of them aren't that I started out around.
Yeah. So how did you come to start to do your business in the first place?
Oh, that's a fun story.
Okay.
I get to blame that on Ryan Murphy. I was asked to be on Glee, and in the 197 Transgender choir in episode 607 called Transitioning, where Coach Beast came out as transgender, and they had the giant choir. Well, the director pulled me out of the group because they had us lined up by height. And so if you've ever seen a transgender choir lined up by height, it's hilarious. It's backwards. All your men are in front because they're shorter, and all your women are in back, as opposed to, let's say, a mixed choir of cisgender people.
My God.
And so I was in the very back, and I got pulled out of the crowd and put right behind Marie Jones in the scene. And so as a result, I got a lot of attention. One of the things that I got repeatedly was, hey, people from Hollywood getting a hold of me saying, hey, do you know how we can get a hold of all these beautiful people to put them in different kinds of shows? And so I started collecting the names and addresses and phone numbers for everybody I could through the grapevine. Ended up with a lot of those names and addresses from that choir. And out of those people, I started Transgender Talent. And so we filmed that episode in November of 2014. And it aired in February of 2015. And I started Transgender Talent in probably May that year, May of 2015. This was like in 2009. And they said at that time, there's only about a dozen trans actors that were out at the time. And so they said we were really looking for people. So it was years later in 2014 that the opportunity came up to start this. And it was just the beginning of my transition around that time. And so I then decided to launch this company.
I'm asking you whether you worked for people the other side of the camera, because I was thinking recently there was a one doing a festival called The Garden Left Behind, about an undocumented, it's a film about an undocumented trans girl in New York, and they boasted on that film they used 50 trans people both sides of the camera, which I thought was a really an important breakthrough, which gave it some authenticity. But how tough is it for you getting them roles that are not trans roles, or is that still a thing you're having to work on?
Okay, let me answer the first question first about behind the scenes. I actually saw that as an issue because I kept coming across people who were trans who've been in the industry a long time and didn't seem to know about anybody else. So I formed a group, behind the scenes group, and we've met a few times. And I think the first time was quite epic. We had quite a few people there, and there was I think 6 or 8 people there who'd been in the industry 20 or more years and had credits that are mind-blowing. Really mind-blowing credits. So I got them all together in one spot here, and we all went around and introduced each other, and we were all ourselves to everybody, and they were all kind of surprised. By the time an hour and a half passed, I asked the folks just before we wrapped up, I said, those of you who have been in the industry like 18, 20 or more years, did you even know there was anybody else trans in the industry? And they just kind of looked around at each other and said, no, I thought I was alone all this time. There's people, we have one trans person who's got more behind the scenes credits than anybody else that I've ever heard of in Hollywood. She's been the showrunner on 10 shows on major networks.
Wow.
Which is far beyond anybody even close.
Wow.
Let's see. Then getting back to trans people who in non-trans roles, that's something I have. I started doing right away when I saw the need, because I knew that when I first started, there was maybe I could count on one hand the number of trans people who were full-time. There's so few roles, and that has not increased that dramatically when you compare all the other actors out there. You know, we may have 20 full-time people or 30 now, but that's still nothing compared to the, you know, thousands of full-time actors nationwide. So it's a drop in the bucket. So I saw that back years ago and worked on that, and I got our first out trans person into a cisgender lead in a feature film in 2015, I believe it was. And so we've been doing this a long time. You know, the big one that was really cool was getting Zach Barrick into Spider-Man Far From Home. That role is not defined as to what the gender identity is of the character. And I'm pushing Sony to keep it that way, because, I mean, why talk about that in a film? I mean, the film is, you know, anything Spider-Man is dealing with the world being taken over by crazy people. And so, you know, and villains and all this stuff. I mean, stay focused on that. Don't worry about gender identity. Spider-Man Far From Home had, you know, it was in 77 countries and not one frame was edited out. It's exactly as seen here in the United States is what they saw in all those other countries. That's what I'm looking for, is making sure that when we do get roles that first of all, people know that we're trans, but they also aren't distracted by trans being a topic in the movie. And that way we normalize who we are as a people to, you know, because we can't just focus on United States audiences. We have vast differences in those audiences here within this country already. There's lots of people who refuse to watch a lot of the stuff Hollywood puts out here. But imagine some of those other countries where not only do they refuse to see it, but the government bars them from seeing it.
You have a specific role in mind in what you do. What do we need to do as an LGBT community to get behind this? Is there anything we can do?
Oh, God. If you're speaking to filmmakers, of course, realize that, you know, give trans actors a break, in that we don't have the income to pay for the expensive lessons, workshops, and help that we need to get better as trans actors, because, you know, a large number of us are, in fact, something like 90% of us get thrown out of our families, and I think 40% of the homeless youth in this nation are LGBT. So realize that when a child is thrown out of their home at 14 to 16 years old, they're not going to be able to get into university or into a program to learn to act, even though they might have quite the ability naturally for it. And so what you have to realize is that we're very, very hobbled by that, by our own families. And to help support stuff like what Provincetown Film Society is doing with creating a scholarship and mentorship program so that we can train more actors to be there. But we could start more programs like that all over the country. I'd love to see that. But that's going to take a while to come to fruition. You know, those people it takes time to get the training. So in the next couple of years, give us a break. Take us on and try and, you know, see if we can get some help on this, because some of these majors are doing stuff like they're hiring our people and then hiring an acting coach just to work with that person to bring them up to the level they need for a lead in a feature. And so we're seeing that happen. And that investment is going to pay off then in the long run when they see someone like her.
What's the major difference you've noticed in, I think it's 10 years you've been going now?
5, just about 5.
So what's the major difference that you have noticed in those 5 years?
Oh, man. That's actually the topic of one of the panels that we'll be doing on Friday.
Won't be there.
Yeah, and so in a nutshell, basically, I'm seeing it go from being absolutely, the majors being absolutely afraid of it, to where they're actually not just dipping their toe in the water, but they're actually starting to dive into it and go for it. And that I've been seeing in the last month, and it's been absolutely amazing seeing this happen.
We believe we have fairly wide transgender audience because of the reception we get to certain pieces. If there's someone watching now, what should they do if they're an actor? What's the first thing you do? Phone you.
Actually, we get that kind of contact all the time. Every week we have transgender actors reaching out to us, and so we set up a web page on our website, transgendertalent.com, and there's a link right on the front page that says "List with Us." You click on that, and it goes through and tells you a little bit about the whole concept of getting listed. And then down at the bottom of the page is actually most of the page towards the bottom is instructions on how to prepare to reach out to us. And so it talks about creating doing a headshot, getting a resume together, and creating a reel, which most people basically need to do that on their own. And self-tape style at home, no biggie. All the instructions on doing that are on our website on instruction sheets they can download and read through. In fact, even cisgender actors watching this, it's all there for them too. They can. That's the same stuff.
We'll run those details at the end of this interview, but we can see from the 20 minutes we've just spent with you now why they gave you a Persistence Award. You are, if anything, persistence. It's an amazing work you're doing, and I hope it grows bigger and better for all our brothers and sisters out there. Thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you. It's been wonderful.
Love is